Well, hopefully the parts magnet will be happy with me this episode, because I've collected a lot of parts for it. So I went ahead and ordered a brand new air tank. This is a half-gallon air tank. I replaced the 3-gallon with a half-gallon, and that rear works a lot better with the half-gallon. It takes about a gallon to get it all the way full, but I bought this and this small compressor as a combo. And what my plan is, it's got a lower capacity. It's like 120 as opposed to the 140 switch I have. So that'll work better for the rear. So my plan is to hook this one up for the rear and probably use the other small tank for the front with the big compressor. Now, speaking of the front, got myself a steering kit in links. I got upper A arms, brand new upper A arms. I got brand new lower A arms. I got, these are shocks that I bought off of eBay. They were listed as, oh, how did they have it worded? They had it worded shocks by length. And I got kind of close to what the factory length was for the Lincoln. And one of the cool things about this is it came with the stud. That's awesome. So these are made more for a hot rod setup where you need to add it. That's exactly what I needed. Now, I also have got a set of bags. I got this airbag kit, which consists of upper cups, lower cups. It's a universal one. I got those from Twisted Images in Oklahoma. And from them, I also got a shock relocator kit, and that came with studs also. So I should have everything I need to redo the whole front suspension here. Even went and got the bolts today that I forgot for this. So this is going to be a fair amount of work. I guess I just need to get to it. Hopefully tonight I'll get this air compressor removed and the smaller air compressor hooked up for the rear and redo that. Oh boy. So I've been working on this thing all day long. I changed up a lot of stuff. I'll start with what I didn't change. Didn't change the battery. Didn't change the grounds or positives. Now, everything goes back to a fuse. It goes over to a distribution block back here. Now, I did change some of the stuff on the distribution block. I eliminated some stuff and I added some stuff. Now, start with the valve. The valve goes to the rear. That's in the same place it was. I added a new wiring harness for the switches because I have a new valve mounted this way. And this one will be going to the front. I added a ground strap. That's the same solenoid I had that runs my big air compressor. I added a relay for the small air compressor. I moved the ground terminal block up there. Let's see what else I've done. This tank is now mounted this way. I made a bracket so they both fit, and I added this tank. Now this tank runs the rear. The small air compressor will hopefully fit underneath right about here, and will feed this tank. Now the big air compressor should fit exactly where it was and feed this tank. This one will run the front. I've tested a few items. Seems like everything's working. Now all I need to do is hook up the air compressors and see if everything's holds air and the rear end lifts back up. So I went to wire these up last night. Got that one to work fine, but this one I couldn't get to turn on, and it was this, the starter solenoid. Burned up on me. Apparently that's what happens when you wire them up backwards, but oh well. I went and got a new starter solenoid today, and it seems like it's working. So I'm going to go ahead and wire this one up and make it permanent. This one over here tonight, I made a little base for it because it was just, I only had 2 screws in it when I went to the parts store, and that thing shook itself to death with the 2 screws. So I made a nice little base for it and put 4 factory, what came with it, the factory bolts, up through the wood, and seems like it's working pretty good right now. Now this bad boy, I need to get this wired up and get all this tank and valve tested, and then hopefully I can move on to working on the front suspension. Now the one thing that's got me bugging is how to run the airline, and I'm thinking I kind of want to run it through the inside of the car, but that's going to be a lot of work drilling through the firewall. I could run it down underneath through back here, but that's a lot of work running up underneath the car. I kind of just want to run one single 1/2 inch all the way to the front and then split it off up there with equal length hoses. But I guess we'll see when I get to start working on the front. This I want to get working tonight, so everything's ready to go, and all I have to do is hook up the hose. So that one's working fine. Rear suspension's working good. This one right here works good, fills up the tank, but both of my valves are leaking. And I guess just because they're old, I mean, they're 20 years old probably. This one's got a 120 PSI switch on it. This one's got 140. I thought the 140 may have been the problem, but it looks like it just, the valves are old. And so I need to get new valves from somewhere. But for right now, they'll work. This one would just keep on, you know, if the valve's not hooked up to anything and it's leaking, well, then that means this air compressor is going to turn on and off. So right now I've got it disconnected. So, but it did work and seemed like it filled up the tank fine, just like before. This one's a little bit slower than that one. 2 of those would fill that tank up in a snap, I can tell you that. But I'm impressed with that little air compressor. That was like $100 on eBay for that one, and it came with some fittings. Some of the stuff was too small for me, but it came with fittings, hardware, you know, the screws that came with it, stuff like that. So nice little setup. I'm happy with it. I got my switches. That one's up, and that one's dump. That's for the one that's sitting in the center, and those. That one's going to run the front. Now the rear, white is up and pink is dump. Pink's the front switch. Notice how that stuck a little bit, but I'm happy with what I've gotten done so far. So, got the rear almost buttoned up. I guess maybe tomorrow, if we got some good weather, I'll start working on the front suspension. This would be a great time for you to like the video, subscribe, do all that fancy stuff that YouTube does. So, I've been out here working on this thing today. I raised the rear up all the way it could go. Maxed out the bags. I slid my homemade jack stands up underneath the frame, and then I lowered the back. Immediately pulled the front end, not off the ground, but it was enough that I could move the tire on the passenger side without a jack. So, cool little feature. Let's go on around the other side, because this side I've been working on. Oh yeah, look at that. That's a control arm. That wasn't extremely hard to get off. The bolts back here were kind of hard to bust loose, but once I got them busted loose, I broke them loose with this and strong arm and 13/16 sockets to pull those bolts out. That's the bolts right there. So if you notice, something's missing here. Springs out, control arms out, and I've already test fit the one bag plate up in there, and I kind of like the way it's going. So I haven't taken anything else loose yet, except for the lower control arm, the shock. Now the shock up here on the top, I used a adjustable wrench to hold the shock, and then broke it loose with a, I think it was 9/16. I could be wrong. I think it was 9/16 to spin the nut. That was actually more of a pain than taking off those bolts back there. So here's kind of what I've come up with. I want to test fit these plates to see how they'll fit in the stock A arm with the airbag on it. So I've got one kind of mocked up. I mocked it up offset because I kind of want to try this, because that looks like it might fit in there better. A little bit more straighter angle for the bag, but I can move it around. And even if I had to, I could move this plate around and cut it down if I need to. So I guess first step is to get this in, and then start mocking up this and see what it is. Now, one thing that's going to be a problem is these cups don't have air holes, like a hole in it to run your airline out. So the airline looks like it should come up to the top, but I don't think I can drill through the top of that frame. This top of that frame is probably 2 or 3 pieces of metal thick. Right there is where the bolt goes through and latches in. I don't know. I thought about running it through here, but apparently back in here it narrows out so bad that I can't fit a line through. I haven't been able to find any way to run a line in there. I don't know if you all can see. But I'm gonna get back to playing with this and see where I get. Tell you one thing, it was a fight, but I got all the suspension loose. Got this sitting over on a board, the spindle and the breaker rotor. Try not to break that brake line. This bolt up here, that one's a hard one to get to. 13/16 to take the nuts loose, but you gotta get back in here, and I basically had to do it with a closed-in wrench, and that was kind of hard. I did get it broken loose with a breaker bar. This one over here wasn't bad. That one was easy to get to. Whew. But I've got my airbag kind of sitting in there where I want it. I'm not sure about this yet, but I'm gonna have to figure out where I'm gonna have to cut a hole to run the airline out. And I hate to say it, I think it might be up here. Well, I'm not real happy with what I cut out, but it'll work for now. I guess I need to hit the welder on this right here where I cut a little too deep. But that should be enough room to get a 1/2-inch hose and a little bit of protected around it. Back out through there. Hopefully. Alright, so I got my new lower control arm. It's not mounted, but it's on. I got the 2 bolts in it, but it's not secured down. I found that either which way I moved the bracket for this one, the one that's farther back, kind of like I had it set up in the garage, works right. If it's at the middle one, the one in the center, or the one that's right here, it pushes the bag out and it rubs up against the frame. Right now I can fit my finger in around the bag, and that's fully compressed, or pretty close to it. As you can tell, I got jack underneath of it. As you can see, I've got it on the farthest one back, and that seems to work pretty well. Let me go ahead and cycle it back up. You know, my original plan was to weld this into the lower A-arm, but I may not do that right now. If it becomes an issue and I have to do it later, then I'll come back to it. But as of right now, I think I'm just gonna put those in there and see how long they last sitting the way they're sitting. So I've already got my other one in paint, and as soon as that dries, then I might start putting this side back together. I'm gonna go ahead and run the air hose. I don't have any rubber hose to go around my line, so that's something I need to get. But a big old section of rubber hose, split, you know, so forth, to keep it from rubbing. And then I'm gonna run my air line up and probably to the front. Well, I got my uppers all bolted together. So basically this threads in and goes up through where the shock originally was. And I just need to slide it up in there and then put the nut and washers and so forth on it and lock it all down. I need to make sure I get it straight so this hose will come out of that hole the way it's supposed to. All right, you gotta get to it. Oh, and as you can tell, I shot a coat of paint on the frame just to make it look a little bit better than what it was. So that bad boy's bolted in. I'm gonna tighten this up tighter when I get everything else put together. Go back and check all my bolts. Now I need to get the bottom cup in, and then probably bring this up and see if I can start putting everything back together. Well, this is fun. But anyway, I've got the upper A-arm mounted in there. It's not secured, but next thing you know, get the spindle. Now, I'm going to hold off on the shock for right now. And the reason being is because I want to get the other side built and put in like this and make sure everything goes up and down, works like it's supposed to, before I start welding the shock in. All right. I think I got everything hooked back up and tightened up, except for the lower ball joint over here. I haven't tightened that one up because I don't want to, it's one that got one of those nylon nuts, and I want to make sure everything's right before I get that tight. But I haven't done the steering yet. Still need to do that because I definitely messed up this tie rod in, but oh well. But everything's back together. I might go ahead and put a wheel on it. I kind of like to sit it on the ground and see what it does. Oh yeah. Man, that thing looks good. Now I gotta work on the other side. Well, I think last night I got the passenger side for the most part buttoned up. So now it's time to work on the driver's side. Get all these yucky, nasty parts out of here. Get some brand new ones in it. Well, this side was a lot harder to take apart. That bottom ball joint, you can see the shininess from where I was beating on it. You're supposed to beat right here on these edges and it's supposed to come loose. Yeah. So I tried a big hammer, then I tried a bigger hammer, still didn't work. I tried heat, tried PB blaster, all those fancy things, and the only thing I didn't have was a pickle fork and a big hammer. So I call up my friend and I said, hey, can I borrow your pickle fork and your sledge? And he comes over, and I'd say 10 smacks in the right place. Finally, the 11th one knocked it loose. And it's kind of scary because that spring went bing, and those springs are one of the ones that can hurt you. So, but I got everything disconnected. Now on this side, of course, I need to, I've already kind of cleaned down the frame a little bit. This one was kind of a little bit more greasier than the other one. But I need to cut the hole up here, and as my friend pointed out to me, I need to move that hole forward just so it doesn't pinch with the upper A-arm. And somewhere around here, I need to cut and give this thing a coat of paint and I think we'll be ready to start putting it back together. Now, I know everybody on YouTube keeps on talking about this guy named Clarence. Well, Clarence could probably fit all the way around that bag. I'm happy with that. This one's mounted up the same way the other one was. It's got that offset, as you can see, and it's all the way up right now, so it's compressed. And just need to get that spindle hooked back up and tighten all the bolts. Then I should be able to throw some air to it, hopefully tonight. So I just got it hooked up temporarily right now. This is run down the side of the car to the tank in the back. I'm kind of happy. Let's see if I get it the right way. Oh, look, there it went up. Now, the half-gallon tank is not really good for this, but it will fill it up for right now. Now, if I just hold the button, it'll actually just fill up. It'll start raising up, which isn't bad because it basically means that the air compressor is filling up the 2 bags plus a half gallon. I think the valve sticks a little bit. I need some new valves. She looks good hammered, doesn't she? Well, I hooked up the air line temporarily last night. Now I'm gonna have to run that underneath the car and get that situated today. And need to work on my steering. Got my steering link sitting in here on the floor. I'm gonna have to take off the old ones, match these up to what's already on the car, and go ahead and put them on. Well, I got driver's side off. Had to use a pickle fork over here and then turn my wheel all the way, the steering wheel all the way to the right to get this loose. So now I just got to match up one of my new ones. Well, that's pretty close. So I've already got the driver's side done, but here's the passenger side. And used a pickle fork to bust out the center, and you have to turn the car all the way to the right, then you can get it out. But what I did with my new one is matched it up. Now I need to tighten up my bolts here, and this one's ready to go on the car. This is not a hard job. This is a job that can be done in your driveway. Here's the tools I use to do the steering. Needle nose pliers and flat blade screwdriver to get the cotter pins out, the old ones. A half inch wrench and half-inch socket to tighten down the bolts in the center of the connecting brackets. I used a 3/4 to get the old ones off, and 11/16 to put the new ones on. Of course, breaker bar, hammer, and a pickle fork. That's all I needed. Oh, and a jack and be able to take the wheels off. But that job's done. All right, so I got air in it. It's holding its own. Back sitting a little bit higher than the front is right now. I'm gonna hop in it, fire it up, and move it for the first time in a couple days. See what happens. I can steer. So I took this thing for a little drive around town, and it rides nice. The switches are working for the most part. That's the problem with the valves. I already know that. But it seems like it's working fine. So I need to finish routing these. And what I think I'm going to do is bring them on through here, down underneath the grill, the header panel, and use this T and connect them. Now, I did run this hose. This right here is 3/8, or not 3/8, it's half air brake. It's DOT certified. I've got a piece that runs right down through here, as you can see, down through the fender well, back in here. Goes down through the fender well and goes on top of the frame all the way down the car. And it just like it wanted to fit there. It's crazy. So back here in the back, I just fed it right up above the frame, came around and came up back through here and went through a grommet in the trunk, which is right there, if you can see it, hopefully, back under an exhaust. So I'm happy with what I've gotten done. I'm happy that it drives down the road. Now, as far as the shocks, you can see there's all the old parts I took off. Look at all the soda I drank while I was working on this. Man, it was hot. But there's my shocks. I haven't put those on yet because I do have a new set of wheels for the car, and the wheels are a little bit bigger than what's on the car. So what I'm kind of thinking is maybe I need to go ahead and get those wheels mounted on some tires and see if everything fits, and then see if it's going to hit the shock where I'm going to put it. Now, while driving this, when I pulled into my driveway out here, I aired it out and turning it real hard, and the tires rubbed the inner fenders. So there is a little bit of clearance issues in the front inner fenders when it's all the way down. But other than that, I can put my hand around everything. Definitely needs an alignment. My alignment was, yeah, my steering wheel's a little crooked. I think this one's out of what they call caster, where it sits back like this. I think it's just a little bit, but where it sits back at an angle. I think this one is. Maybe, I could be wrong. But I just need to take it to an alignment shop and get them to put it on rack, where they get the computer thing to hook up to it and get everything straight. That'd be worth me paying for that. But I need to go ahead and get this set up. Once I get this set up, kind of done, I think, for right now. So I've decided I'm not going to put the shocks on in this video. I'm probably going to do a different video with them, just dedicated to adding the shocks to that suspension. But because of two reasons. First reason is this suspension is kind of like an S10 suspension, so it depends on where you're supposed to mount it. Should be out here. Well, that's probably going to run into any tire problem. And second thing is I need to get more parts. I need the bolts for up here, plus I need to get the tires mounted and see if all that fits, because these wheels are a little bit bigger than what I have on there. I don't think they're wider, but I think they're might cause a problem. Depends on where everything is, but we'll see. We'll do that in a later video. Plus I got some other parts in. Window regulator, yep, 2 of them. I bought the passenger side, driver side. So passenger side, if it ever goes out, I've got it in stock. And yeah, need to work on the rust that's happening on my door. This I noticed last year that this was starting to pop out, but I'll strip that down and give it a coat of silver paint or something. Plus I want to add my mirrors, some hot rod mirrors that I bought at a car show one time. You may have seen them on the vehicle earlier in the video. But I'm gonna go ahead and call it a wrap on this one. Please, again, like, share, and subscribe. And I'll catch you on the next one.
Welcome to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink, cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink who can catch me when I'm falling. Cover up my scars, flip the hand
thanks for staying to the end of the video. And just because you did that, preview of my new wheels. They're a little dusty. I bought 5 of them. It's aftermarket wheel, 18-inch steel, and boy do I want to paint them. Thanks for tuning in.